Hello again, Star Wars and Unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars Unboxing Show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba. And before we get started with our double unboxing from Walmart, I'm very excited for this, I wanted to talk a little bit about a funny thing that happened to me this week with Hasbro Pulse. Okay, I am a member of the Hasbro Pulse community, and I'll be honest, I have been able to utilize their shipping services and been able to get quite a few items from them over the course of the last year or two, or maybe, I don't know if it's been 2 years yet, but so I've been kind of enjoying that, and I had one item that was actually several vintage collection figures that were being shipped. I got notification that they had shipped. I was like, okay, great. And I had notification that they arrived, and I went, oh, great. So I went out to my front door, looked down, and there was nothing there. Now, I will tell you that maybe you have this experience too, but I have I have a house with a detached garage. For some reason, whoever is delivering packages will sometimes drop off packages to the garage. So I went around the other side, went to the garage, nothing there either. We also had a lot of snow, as I'm sure many of you have too. A lot of the United States is covered in snow right now. So sometimes, postal delivery services or UPS drivers do not want to go down my driveway. I have to go down kind of a bit of a hill to get to the front door. They don't want to do that, so they leave it up by the mailbox. Okay, went up by the mailbox, no packages. Okay, so I will say that at times, and maybe you've experienced this too, at times it sometimes happens where a company will say your item has been delivered, but then the delivery doesn't happen for a day. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because they were planning on delivering it and they got sidetracked, the van broke down, whatever it might be, and they get it to me the next day. Okay, so I gave them a day. They came and went, no package. All right, so now I'm starting to get concerned. So I go on to check my order status on Hasbro Pulse, and I look, and it looks at the figures that I bought. It says it was delivered, and then I looked at the address. The address was wrong. It was in my town. It was my mailing number of my house, but the road name was not there, and instead it was a street name. It was a street number. Okay, so I went, okay, that's a little weird. Same town, same everything. It must have been my error. I take full responsibility for it. I think I was filling things out on my phone or on my iPad, and sometimes it does like an autofill, and I just let it complete the autofill, not realizing that maybe there was something not right about that. So I actually drove over to the address, since it was only 5 minutes from my home. I drove to the address that it supposedly did get delivered to, and it was, unfortunately, there are homes all over the place, and if it had been a house, I could have knocked on the door and asked somebody if they had received a package that they didn't know what was about. But no, it wasn't a house. It was a kind of a corporate complex or a business complex where there was literally 25 places. And of course, now we're in the midst of COVID. None of them were open. A lot of them were only working from home, or they had very odd hours. So I knocked on a few doors, and I did get one or two people, and they were like, no, nothing came in the mail here. So I was like, all right. Plus, not to mention the fact it was about 5 degrees out, so it was so cold. So I just said, all right, never mind. So I went back, and I went on the chat feature on Hasbro Pulse, and I explained the situation to Hasbro. And I got a person right away. And they kind of checked on there, and I said, well, it says it was delivered, but I'll tell you what, we'll do you a courtesy, and we'll resend the figures. So I was shocked, and I was like, really? Okay, so thank you. So they are resending the figures, and I double checked the address. The address is correct. It got shipped out yesterday, and I should be receiving it in the next day or two, and it'll be featured on our channel in a few weeks. But I do want to say that on my honor system here, if for some reason the original box finds its way to me for one reason or another, I will pay for shipping to ship that back to Hasbro. Not so much for Hasbro's sake, but so that other people might want to be able to order those figures. I don't believe the figures were ultra rare. It wasn't something that I purchased that got sold out in 2 seconds. It wasn't anything of that nature. So, but nonetheless, I don't feel right having two sets of figures. I really don't want two sets of figures, and I don't need 2 sets of figures, so I will send it back if I get it. Although I don't know, it's, you know, somebody could just say, hey, look, free Star Wars toys, and just kind of keep it. So anyway, thought that was a pretty cool story, and I know that Hasbro gets a lot of grief, and you know, I give them some grief because I get a little aggravated at the way they distribute toys and stuff like that, and I understand you know, a lot of people's frustration, but I got to give it up for their customer service, and them doing their best to make something right. So thank you, Hasbro Pulse, and I look forward to continuing to order from you guys, and thank you for being so courteous. All right, so on to our boxes. These are 2 Walmart orders. I am again at the point now, it's been a few weeks, just so you guys are aware, when you watch something on my channel, when you see an episode, it's usually about 3 weeks ahead, 2 to 3 weeks ahead. So it means that I filmed it and edited it and actually got it up on YouTube a few, you know, just a few weeks ahead of time, because I sometimes I run into busy times with my day job, and I need a little time, you know, a little more time to do that. So I try to cycle through and get at least a week or a week and a half to 2 weeks ahead when I can. So that's kind of the reason. It's one of the reasons why you don't see me doing too much in the way of news commentary. I do some from time to time, but I'm thinking about trying to make that a live stream kind of thing where I can talk through some news and talk through it. But I'm still learning how to do that, especially with my phone. It's kind of challenging. I don't, you know, it's just my talking head, and I would rather have there be, you know, some imagery and things of that nature. So I'm working on some things for maybe down the road. But for now, that's why you don't see a lot of news and commentary. All right, so our first one, we have a Mandalorian Loyalist. And I'm so happy that we have, it is a Black Series, because I do open these. I'm very excited about it. Okay, and again, you know, I love I'm liking the packaging. You know, I'm liking that they're getting a little bit more interesting with the shape of the packaging, and then they're getting into a little more color options. Okay, but ultimately, I really want to have these figures loose. They take up less room, and they're posable, and they're displayable, and just cool things. I do sometimes keep the boxes if there are multiple hands or heads or just different things that I can keep. And I do keep those so that in the event, you know, for one thing, it's an easy way to store them. And for another thing, it allows me to, if I want to change up the display, I can have the option to do that. Certainly don't want to throw items away. All right, so this looks like he comes with two guns, two blasters. Interesting types of blasters, actually. They're like kind of flat. Of course, it comes with a jetpack. You know, it's so funny. Like, when I think about the Mandalorians with jetpacks, I always think about that scene in Return of the Jedi when Boba Fett is they're on the sail barge, and Boba Fett decides to he needs to go and fly out to the skiff, right? And you can just clearly see when he takes off that it's like this basic cable that's just kind of yanking him. I don't know. I always noticed that to be a little, even as a kid, I thought that was just a little bit off. You know, not that I hated it. I just thought it was a little bit off. But and now when you see the entrances of all the Mandalorians in the scene, particularly in this one, I think the Loyalist kind of came from the scene, the flashback scene, I believe. All right, I think by the time we got to the earlier episode, if you haven't seen Mandalorian season 1, see it please. But I believe that the Mandalorians in the early parts of the episodes were kind of like, they weren't at their prime. You know, they were all kind of out and hiding, and the infantry trooper kind of let them all out to help our Mandalorian escape. Whereas I think this guy, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I believe this guy kind of found himself, he was one of those ones that rescued Din Djarin as a boy, from the battle droids. So I think they all kind of looked a little bit more. In fact, this is kind of like an army builder. You can get a few of these, and they all kind of look the same. So very, very cool. All right, nice. So next one. This one feels a little lighter. I have a feeling this one is probably a vintage collection item, or maybe not. Maybe something else that I ordered. I order these things. Oh, no, it's vintage. It's definitely vintage collection. Yay. All right. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about this. Walmart, does have a bit of a packing problem. This thing came like this, okay? This is how this came, which means, now I might have opened this up upside down, and they might have packaged it like this, which means they dropped the figure in, and then they put the packing on top, which has, I keep saying Hasbro, sorry Hasbro, Walmart, not cool. Not cool at all, because I didn't even show you what the figure is yet. There's some, but here, there's some bend. You can see there in the light, which is sad. But the figure itself is pretty cool. It's the Incinerator Trooper VC-177. Now, I will tell you, in all honesty, this was actually on sale. Okay, it was a reduced price, and I wondered if I had actually purchased it. Now that that falls into another issue. Some people have asked, do you have like a checklist? Do you keep track of everything? And the answer to that, sadly, is no. Or I should say, I used to have a checklist. And I did. I made, just to give you a little heads up, before YouTube, okay, before there was a lot of social media, okay, there's another good close-up of him, okay. Again, for those who just watch the channel, I do generally keep the VC figures, the vintage collection figures, in their packaging, okay. Not for any reason of like any serious thought of value, okay. I just like the packaging. I love the vintage packaging. I do love unboxing toys, and I do unbox quite a few, but some of them I will keep in these packagings because, just because I enjoy them. It's a nostalgic take. I love that they've put the Mandalorian kind of title right there in there, and they do the same thing with all the sequel trilogy movies and Rogue One and Solo and expanded universe or legacy, all sorts of things. So it's really cool. But anyway, but it's I did end up, I don't know if I have it. So I was starting to say that I did a long time ago create a master Excel sheet checklist. Okay. In fact, I utilized a company, and I tell this story for you, so it's kind of a buyer beware thing. I found online basically a collection software program where you can meant specifically for collections. It had like very easy typing in, entering things. It kind of like, if you think of like QuickBooks, but for collectors, right? And I was able to not only put all the information I wanted about every single piece of collectible item and everything, I also was able to put a picture in, upload a picture. Now this was back when the phones didn't work. This is how far back we're going. We didn't have camera phones that worked very well. Instead, we would get our digital cameras, we'd take the photos, and we'd have to upload it to the computer. So I would take 20, 30, 40 pictures at a time of 20, 30, 40, 50 items, and then I would upload them to my computer, and then one by one put them in, and I had this beautiful setup where I could type in anything in the search and it would come up. It's set up an Excel file or something like Excel that I could look at everything listed. I put a monetary value. I got out books and I looked up the price guides, and I always went for the lowest price, everything. I was really organized. It took me 4 years to amass a nice database, right? Okay. Well, at some point, as things do, my computer crashed. Okay. It happens. I had a backup. Oh yeah, I was smart. I backed it up. All right, I had it all backed up on a hard drive, or a portable hard drive, no problem. But it required me in order for me to access the files, it required me to reach out to the company that had sold me the software, and I had to get a new activation key. not an uncommon thing. I do this in my professional job all the time. I reached out to the company went out of business. So all that work, I lost access to it. So I have learned. Now, I'm sure that this day and age, there's far better, far easier, far more productive ways to do this, things that you can do online. You know, we didn't have a Google Drive. We didn't have the cloud. We didn't have things like that. So now we do, which makes things a little bit easier. I did start creating like an Excel document myself that had it. And then I just got to the point where it's like, you know what? I started cycling through stuff where I didn't actually, I didn't actually keep track of stuff so much because I would sell stuff. You know, I would sell stuff out and then, use that money to buy new stuff. And I'd kind of go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it recycled itself so much that it would be a full-time job trying to do it. So that's kind of why I don't do that anymore. But I do keep track, kind of a visual track of it. And I do have my YouTube videos that are kind of a helpful documented, I should say, history of it. So it helps me for that. So that'll do it for this week's episode, or this episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Okay, check me out on Instagram, Twitter at Darth Tuba, Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show on Facebook. And if you want to support the show, hit the like, subscribe, all that stuff. But if you want to support it even further, check out our TeePublic store, and you can maybe make a purchase on a Darth Tuba shirt or some really cool vintage style Star Wars inspired art, and support the channel in that way. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, may the Force and the toys be with you.